Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Dandelion Compliance. I'm 24, living in my first place on my own. I'd rented a townhouse. This was back in the late 80s, even when poor people could rent entire houses. I was putting myself through college. Not a lot of money to spare, but I was getting by. The townhouse was not detached, and I had two neighbors whose homes were directly attached to my own. I got along fine with my southernmost neighbor. We said hi when we saw each other, and that was about it. But the other neighbor had a chip on his shoulder, generally rude if we bumped into each other. I'd say hi or good morning. He'd ignore me, scowl, turn away, etc. Whatever, no big deal. I just took it in stride. Being a struggling college student, I didn't have a lot of money for non-essentials. Most of the people in the neighborhood poured weed killers on their lawns every spring. I didn't do this for several reasons. Most important, I think it's a shame to poison the local water table. While I love a nice lawn, I don't think you have to cater to grass. I prefer a more natural look. Back then, that meant regular grass, but with some crabgrass and dandelions. One day, Bob starts berating me over my dandelions. It doesn't fit the neighborhood. Don't you have any self-respect? You bring down the tone of the neighborhood. Every time he'd see me, he'd tell me I need to pour poison on my lawn. I explained I couldn't afford it and didn't want to do it. At first, I was polite, as I wanted to be on good terms with my neighbors. But Bob started getting angrier and angrier, and more unreasonable. He started calling me poor white trash. One day, I'm coming home, parking in my driveway with some friends from school in my car. As we are getting out, Bob comes outside and shouts at the top of his lungs, "Get rid of those darn dandelions." He looks over and now spots my friends getting out of the car, and he's clearly embarrassed. But he doubled down and started talking directly to my friends. "Did you know your friend is an embarrassment to the neighborhood? How's it feel to be friends with white trash?" I just about had enough of his anger by then, and I snapped back. I told him to get lost and mind his own business. Several days later, I get a knock on my front door. I open up the door, and it's a bylaw enforcement officer. He says he's responding to complaints of noxious weeds in my backyard, and asked to come take a look for himself. Being a middle unit, the only access to my backyard was through the house. I invite him in, offer him a drink of water. He gratefully accepts. Hot day. I take him through to the backyard. Lots of lovely white and yellow dandelions peppered over the yard. He takes one look and gives a deep sigh. There were no noxious weeds. I knew this full well, as I had long ago taken the precaution of checking with the city to see what was and was not acceptable in the weed department. I knew I was very comfortably within compliance. The bylaw cop apologized for wasting my time, said my yard was nowhere near a problem. He left and went next door to chastise my neighbor for wasting his time. I stood at my front door and listened. It was glorious listening to Bob sputtering and angry, trying to defend himself and vilify me, all to no avail. My wife and I can't even sit out and enjoy our backyard because of all those stupid dandelions. Bylaw cop told him to stop harassing his neighbors and left, but listening in gave me an idea. I knew Bob liked to sit out on his back deck in the afternoons, so I waited. As soon as I spotted him out there, I walked out into my backyard, ignoring Bob as I gathered up a nice bouquet of right-top dandelions, seeds ready to disperse to the wind. We had a 4-foot-high chain-link fence between our properties, so the view between yards was pretty much unobstructed. I stood at the fence, locked eyes with Bob, and started blowing thousands of dandelion seeds into his yard. The wind was at my back, so the seeds were traveling quite far into his yard. He grew red-faced and started yelling at me. "What's the matter, Bob? I'm just doing what you asked and getting rid of my dandelions." He yelled more, and I just ignored him. After depositing several dandelions worth of seeds, he went back inside. From that day forward, for the next several weeks, every single time I saw him out on his deck, I'd go out and send more dandelion seeds into his yard. Eventually, dandelion flowering season ended. I wanted to think that Bob learned a lesson about bullying, but he didn't. The next story is called Malicious Compliance. I work as both a teacher and at your Arizona hometown grocer. After I finish teaching 4th graders, I go work in the deli department. There are tons of things to do. Sweep and mop, take in the teas, the soups, tear down the hot case, which has about 20 items that get tossed out, and have dishes needing to be done. I've developed a system where I work on the dishes as I go, and there's a bell to ring if someone needs customer service. Some customers didn't like this daunting task of having to ring a bell to get my attention, so a new policy was adopted by the store management team. No doing dishes until the department is closed. This is a problem. The deli department doesn't have the hours to pay us past our scheduled time. And on top of this, anytime we work past our scheduled time in the department counts as overtime. Double whammy for them. I didn't believe this was the case, but either way, this was a logistical impossibility. I knew that I couldn't do the dishes after the department closes, without, going past closing time. Enter Malicious Compliance. I pace back and forth through the front of the deli, watching for customers as I clean the slicers and countertops. The only things I could do for cleaning, because they were within eyesight of customers. I have about 6 customers from 4 to 7, walking past a 4x3x3 sink full of dishes piled past the top and spilling over. I keep thinking how silly this is, that I can't do the dishes right now. But I resign myself to keep to my plan of only working on customer service until 7 PM. I keep tearing down stations, and the dishes keep getting higher and piled more messily. Finally, 7 PM. I start doing dishes, and I finish about 2.5 hours later. I do this 2 more times during the week, and get pulled into the office with the deli manager and assistant manager both there. The assistant manager says, "It appears that there's a bit of a problem here, because you shouldn't be taking 3 hours to do the dishes." Then the deli manager chimes in. "Yeah, why don't you do the dishes in between customers?" I slowly look over to a very sheepish looking assistant manager, who looks at me like they want me to be quiet. I say, "Management said I can't do dishes until the department closes." This starts an argument back and forth between Sylvia, my deli manager, and the assistant manager that turns so angry I get uncomfortable. This overtime hours isn't coming out of my department. Fix it. The assistant manager yells back at her. "Look, you're overstepping here. We'll take it out of mine this time. Just make sure you do dishes in between customers." I got close to 9 hours of overtime that week. Maybe I'll get some new shoes. The last story is called Maximum Price. Many years ago, I had a 1981 Ford Courier pickup that needed engine work. After meeting with a local auto repair shop that specialized in rebuilding engines, I asked if they could look at the engine and get the truck operational again. After examining the engine, he said it needed rings, valve work, plugs, plug wires, and a list of other things. I asked if he could do what he suggested for $1,000 or less. The shop owner said he could do that. We agreed on the $1,000 maximum price, and I dropped off the truck. A couple of weeks later, he called to tell me the truck was ready to pick up, and the bill was a little over $1,300. I asked what happened to my maximum limit of $1,000. He said that once they got in, they repaired a few extra things while the engine was open, upgraded some components beyond what was necessary, and believed it was worth the new price. I told him that I was only willing and able to spend $1,000, and that is why I gave him the maximum. He said that if I didn't pay, they would keep the truck. The reason I had $1,000 maximum was that if repairs were over that, I was going to take the money and buy a newer used vehicle. After a long pause on the phone while I did some fast mental math, I told him to keep the truck, and I hung up. He called back in about 3 minutes and told me to come and get the truck for $1,000. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.